Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Dan Owolabi Podcast. Man, we are so excited to be here because we are live at the Branches Summit. And we are here with my really good friend, Kirsten Moorefield. Kristen? Nope. Kirsten. It's not Kristen. So I'm not gonna stop here. Seriously. We've been talking for a long time about her name being Kirsten. And I actually told you a couple weeks ago, a couple weeks ago when we talked, and then a couple of minutes ago before you got on stage, every time I see you, I'm flipping Kirsten and Kristen
I know,
back and
it's hard.
forth.
It's hard.
People probably call you the wrong name a lot.
Every day of my life. Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah.
I'm not offended. You got it right when you were on stage. That's what matters.
I did.
Yeah.
And it's funny, you have no issue correcting people.
No.
You're like, do not call me the wrong name. My name is Kirsten.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
You lead a pretty incredible company called Cloverleaf.me. And on the Branches Summit stage, she did an amazing job kind of walking through the value of empathy and curiosity and why, as a Christian, somebody who's building a company that makes a difference in your community, why that matters a ton and why oftentimes conflict in the workplace has a lot to do with personality differences as opposed to somebody being malicious or intentionally trying to bring down your company or bring down your department. So it was a really good talk. I'd like to get into the details on that. And it was well received by the Branches Summit audience. So well done.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks for having me. It's really an honor to be included here.
I'm glad you're here. Let's just start off from the beginning. So why don't you just tell us why you brought that topic to this stage? You've talked about a lot of things, your book on Amazon, it's really good and talks about some other elements, but why this topic? Why now?
Well, because you asked me to talk about faith in business. And I usually, I cannot remember the last time I spoke to an audience of believers. I'm always in a secular environment, and I'm usually talking about artificial intelligence and human intelligence.
Okay.
And actually, I felt a lot of, this is for the Lord. I felt some pressure on this topic, and I prayed about it a lot. I actually came up with a couple of different talks I could give.
Okay.
And I landed on this one because, I just believe this is, like, the Lord has put this in me. I care about this so much. It's what I've built my business around. It's who I process it every day, trying to model the love of Christ through this. And I just have a lot of thoughts on it. So I just felt through prayer, like the Lord was like, hey, anyone can talk about repentance, which I think is really important to business. I think it's a huge, amazing business practice, is, repentance. Anyone could talk about, testimonies and great ways that God has provided. I just felt him releasing me into, no, talk about this. It's what I put in you. And it's what you're very, very passionate about because I put it there.
That's good. One of the things I appreciated about your talk is it was very personal, great storytelling, but also you seem to embody this like seamless integration between faith and business. Like it just seemed like your faith, of course, should inform your business practices. And specifically, here's how you do it. The sense I got was that empathy and curiosity were two sort of reflexes that you would pull from someone's relationship with Christ that would inform the relationship that you had with your colleagues and your coworkers. Can you talk a little bit about that idea?
Yeah, well, first I'll just say, like, integrating faith in business, I think, is very full of friction, and it never feels natural. I always have questions on, did I go too far, not far enough? I always am second guessing that, which I don't know if that's a good thing.
But it's real.
Because I'm really trying to be respectful, of the Lord and of the person and actually helpful. Like, I want it to be fruitful, right? Yeah. And I've seen a lot of scenarios where it's very unfruitful. It's a little too awkward, disrespectful of the person and their scenario and where they're coming from, right? So I do feel a little paranoia around that. I wouldn't say it's naturally easy, but I of course I do. It is at the core of all I do. Is I want to know God deeper, and I want to reflect his kingdom here on earth. So what was your next question?
Yes.
I forgot.
Well, I was keying in on this idea of curiosity and empathy and why that matters so much as far as reflecting that in your relationship with people around you.
So I observe, and, I hear this from people in HR, like most of what is causing business problems and breakdown, miscommunication, conflict, and therefore, loss of creativity, people feeling unheard, people not speaking up, people not sharing their perspective anymore, people, sharing it forcefully and too bluntly because they're used to getting, pushback, or people, all the different ways that we can show up and cause problems that cause relational tension that then cause business problems. I think all of that really comes down to we're just made very diverse in the way that we think, the way that we feel, the way that we see the world, the way that we process. You know, you have people who are really good at foreseeing problems, and you have other people who are really good at not worrying enough about them, right?
And those people are in accounting, and those people are in marketing.
Yeah, right? But you need them both, right? You have people who are really good at detailed analysis and other people who are just big picture thinkers and feel bogged down by all the questions the analysts are asking, right? You have people who are really, really concerned about people and how's this going to impact our values, and are we talking enough about our core values? And you have other people who are like, so what about that? We're running out of money. We got to keep the ship up. You know what I mean? Right. You've got all these different ways that God has uniquely wired us, and when they come into conflict with each other, our society has trained us that we should be certain that we are correct, and we should protect ourselves from that different way of thinking, because it is not only wrong, it's dangerous. Because, the person who is worrying about all the potential future scenarios, the one who's like, oh my gosh, can we find the silver lining? Is so worried that like this person is just going to take everyone off the rails,
if you
right?
let them get their way, they're going to run us off the cliff.
And we're never going to get anything done. We're always going to be stuck in, analysis by paralysis, whatever. And then you got that person who's very highly analytical, foreseeing all the potential future problems, saying, oh my gosh.
Don't let these guys run the ship.
They don't even know, right?
They don't care.
And it becomes, it instead of it being, oh my gosh, you're right. We could consider those. Thank you so much for foreseeing that. I'm going to try to rally the team, and vice versa. And you don't have that. What you have instead is people devolving into judging each other's character.
Oh.
And saying,
wow.
I need to gather my evidence that I'm right, so that when the moment comes, I can prove that they're wrong.
Wow.
Right?
Wow. It's not just that they have incorrect ideas or they're looking at things the wrong way at the wrong time. It's that they are bad. Like their character is bad. They're looking to sabotage this. They can't control themselves. It's whatever. It's more personal as opposed to professional in those moments.
And so that's the extreme example.
Sure.
Right? But it can come off in subtler ways, right? Like, oh, is this person a good fit for the team? Or, oh my gosh, there goes George asking that question again. I really need to talk to him about how he should mature. And, it's a growth opportunity for him. And, in some cases it is. In some cases it absolutely is. Like, read the room. Don't ask that question to this room anymore, but like, that's the right question to ask. Where's the right scenario, right? Like, sometimes it really is those things, but it's easier to talk about the extreme of how you see it. But we all need to recognize when we feel pricked, when that moment comes where that person says or does that thing and you're like,
oh my gosh, they did it again. Yeah. Wow.
That's you having an invitation from Jesus to lay it down,
Yeah.
Like that is an opportunity for you. And you could be correct. And they could actually be wrong. It is possible. But your reaction is not one that comes from how God designed you.
Yeah.
It's one that comes from TikTok training you and politics training you and the news channels and how they interview and what they don't ask and what they do ask. It's you being trained by the world out there to like, do this.
Right. Because they're different. I can't believe it. Right.
Whereas God made that person that way. And yes, they have opportunities to grow, and so do you. But can we recognize the differing strengths that are underlying this? And can we encourage and honor that as opposed to suppressing that?
Yep. So if I would ask somebody, hey, is empathy important in the workplace? Especially if I ask Christians, people who are building things that they want to make a difference in the world. Is empathy important? Every single person, 100% would say, correct, absolutely. If I said, hey, look, is curiosity important in you leading your team? 100% of people would say, yes. I get the sense that as you're speaking about this around the country and around your community and your company, people say yes, but then the actual work of doing it is so how does somebody, it's way harder than people would think.
Yeah.
So how does somebody say, okay, I realize this is important and the likelihood of me doing this well is probably lower than I think. How do I get better at expressing empathy? How do I get better at sort of, holding my sense of peace when I get upset and frustrated, taking it to prayer, we'll talk specifically to Christians. How do I get better at that?
I think you just need to recognize when you're triggered. Like, when is the moment when you tense? When is the time when you just want to roll your eyes? When you are like, oh my gosh, here we go again, right? When are those, it is in those stressful moments that it comes out. It is in the, gosh, is this the right person for the team anymore? Which they might not be. But are you still seeing, oh my gosh, God made this person this way? And actually, we're not doing a great job of giving them the right opportunities because we don't have them here, right? It's a totally different approach than, I don't know if you're on mission anymore, you know?
Right, definitely.
Because you're naysaying a whole lot of things. I don't know if you're on mission anymore, right? It's like, no, you're just wired different, right?
And that's okay.
That's beautiful. That's how God made you.
You know, it's funny. It feels as if the more you're able to pay attention to your triggers, the longer you're able to stay underneath that sense of tension. When somebody's doing something that just makes you feel like, but instead of firing them right away or sort of planting seeds that lead to their demise, just staying under tension and saying, okay, I need to understand a little bit more. And that patience starts to grow over time. That's what I hear you saying.
Yeah. Have you ever heard somebody say Christians should be unoffendable?
You.
Oh my gosh. Think on that.
Yeah.
Was Jesus ever offended? I mean, people were so wrong to him, but was he ever offended? And they would ask him the stupidest, most annoying questions. And he would sometimes be like, oh, you have little faith. How much longer do I have to be with you, right?
Are you so dull? Yeah, right.
But he was never like, what are you doing to me? Why don't you understand me? You know, like, he was never offended. And we should not be offended if we truly, because I think why people get offended is we live in a world of scarcity, right? There's never enough time. There's never enough budget. There's never, you're always going to have more priorities than you can get to. We feel this sense of scarcity. And you add that into work, where this is how you're going to make a living. This is how you provide for your dreams and for those you love. You're just a pressure cooker and just put it all in there, right? And then you have like somebody, who's saying, I'm trying to come up with a different scenario than all the different personality things I brought up. Then you've got somebody who is saying, hey, blah, 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 over and over. They keep repeating themselves, right? And you're just like, what are they doing here? Or you've got somebody stepped on my toes. I don't think they respect my authority because I said this and they did that, right? Or, you have all these different scenarios that can come up. And you know what's happening in all of those scenarios? You're feeling offended. And you're also feeling a bit of offense against that person, right? And I think that is just where to be truly Christ-like is to lay it down. It doesn't mean, Dan, it definitely doesn't mean everything's fine. It also doesn't mean, Dan, let's talk for an hour. What are you thinking? What's your perspective? What are you feeling? We don't have time for that every day, right? But in subtle ways, you could say things like, hey, I think that's a really good question. We don't have time for that right now. Could you, go work that out with this person? Or could you bring back some data, right? Versus, don't worry about it. I don't think that's going to be a problem, right? Totally different reaction, right? And it's in those small moments when we put this on display.
That's good. That's really good. So, Kirsten, tell me this. If you were going to take your whole talk and boil it down to a nutshell, and you were going to give somebody who was in the audience that clear message, and they were going to say, you know what, they go back home, they put their head on the pillow, they're sleeping, and they're thinking about Kirsten Moorefield and Cloverleaf, and they have a thought that comes to mind about your talk. What do you want them to take away?
I want them to recognize that God created such a variety of ways for people to be gifted, to act, to think, to see the world, to behave, to relate, to make decisions. And that when all of those different ways come together, the world has taught us to protect ourselves and to push away from what is different, that different is dangerous. And that the way of Jesus is to practice relational curiosity, in which you're not just curious, hey, what could really be happening here, but you're curious about them. How did God make you? And how do I honor that and honor how God made me? And we can grow through this together as opposed to needing to separate. We can come together on it.
That's fantastic. What I love about the Branches Summit is that we gather executives, owners, and entrepreneurs, people who believe they're building something that matters for the sake of God's kingdom. And oftentimes when you think of what building what matters means, you think about building your company, you think about building your business. I think what Kirsten's talking about, what you're talking about specifically, is this idea of building people and building teams that are diverse and giving people an opportunity to really thrive in their God-given abilities, not trying to be somebody different, but being who they were made to be in the context of your company, and how to deal with the inevitable disagreements that come from diversity, and saying, let's just actually just address this out front. We're not always going to get along. How does it look like to actually pull together as a team without you trying to become like me? That's really good.
Yeah, and we see in our data that a lot of leaders hire themselves. They hire people just like them over and over because it's who they understand. They get it, and it feels like, oh, this person gets the mission. This person's got the vision.
They have the same pace, same speed, same vision.
We can do this. And then you're missing all these different strengths, right?
Sure, because they're not strong enough to deal with people very different than them.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I would say they're not strong enough. I would just say they don't understand it, that actually it's not that person doesn't, get it or isn't, able to keep up with the pace. It's that they're wired differently. Maybe they're wired to solve really complex problems deeply. And every business really needs that, as opposed to do all the different tasks. And I want to have the meetings and I want to talk to the people and I want to sell the thing, right? You need both of those in your business.
That's good. That's good. One of the things I love about your talk is that you gave a great illustration about you and your husband in pants. And it got a great laugh from the group. People loved it. Can you give us just a short synopsis of that story?
Sure. So my husband and I needed to buy new clothes for our kids because it just became winter. And it turns out we didn't coordinate very well. And we had all these pants for my daughter that we had bought separately. So I put them all on the table and I said, hey, babe, which ones do you want to keep? And she just loved all of them. She gave me the bluey face. Oh, I love these butterflies on this one, right? My husband noticed this, came on over to help us out and said, no, we're not keeping all of these. It doesn't matter that he didn't say this as bluntly as I'm saying it. He was just like, well, you don't need the butterfly ones because you have these other ones, right? And she started to get sad. I started to get stressed. He noticed the tension rising and he just walked away, So
Good
we
guy.
were debriefing this afterwards, and which is a nice way of saying we were having a little argument. And he said, what was your decision-making criteria? You ended up keeping all the pants. You didn't even accomplish a goal, And I just cried and I said, you hurt my feelings. I don't know what else to say, It was really, really productive. But then afterwards, after processing it, I realized my husband is such an engineer. I mean, before he was trained to be an engineer, he just God made him one, He needs to know our decision-making criteria, what are our parameters, and what's our numeric goal we're driving towards. And I was thinking about my daughter's heart and her articulating what she cares about and her discovering her voice and speaking out loud what she wants. And so when we were in that process, my husband came on in and told her, no, you don't need the butterfly pants, and he silenced my voice, at least from my experience, right? That's how I was feeling it all. He came exactly against me. And I could say, what a jerk. How insensitive. I am so correct. He silenced my voice and he silenced her voice.
Both of us.
He needs to go to therapy, And he could, from his perspective, say, we kept all the pants. There was no clear criteria.
These guys are crazy.
And he was right. He was right. So we both could be in our own worlds absolutely correct and absolutely divided. But if we could lay down our pride, lay down our perspective and say, you know what? He's right. I need clear decision-making criteria. We don't need all the pants. And if he could say, you know what? She's right. It matters so much that our daughter finds her voice. That's where you combine strengths as opposed to divide.
That's good. That's good. I feel like that story really hit because it brought home a situation that all of us have been in.
Yeah.
We're connected to our spouse and they're wired different. We still love them.
Sometimes.
But, but yet we see all these differences. So I love that idea of working together despite the disagreements.
Yeah.
So
that's the beauty. That's the beauty of it, right?
I agree. Let's circle back and sort of give people a clear sense of what you're talking about in regards to Cloverleaf and the work that you do. If you were going to give somebody just a real sort of nugget of advice, somebody who maybe wasn't at the summit, which I don't know why you didn't come to the summit, somebody who wasn't at the summit, but yet is inspired by the work you're doing, really wants to sort of work in a diverse workplace, but yet still minimize disagreements, destructive ones, what kind of advice would you give to them?
Well, I can give you a thing you could put in your podcast where you can just give away a slimmed down version of our AI coach.
Yeah.
And I'm happy to give that to the audience because we don't know all these differences sometimes, right? We just need something to help us see it. So I can give that to you. You can give it away where you can unlimited take assessments and start to see these differences in people. And for 2 months, you can get emails reminding you of it,
That's
right?
good. We'll have that in the show notes. We'll have a link to that.
Yeah.
That's great. Thank you.
I think you need some outside help sometimes. With or without outside help, it's what I said earlier. When you feel pricked, when you feel stressed, when you feel yourself getting tense or yourself getting irritated or annoyed or, oh my gosh, here we go again. Those are invitations from God for you to repent, for you to be refined, for you to lay down yourself, and for you to see how he made the other person.
I like that. I like that. The feeling of being sort of pricked, those trigger moments, that is a clue. That's a signal. I love that.
And I would also say, like, those are always invitations. Even if you're like, oh my gosh, I'm worried about money. It has nothing to do with a person, but like, I don't have enough budget for my department or whatever you're worried about. Those moments of fear, of frustration, of disappointment, those are always invitations from the Spirit.
I love that. Kirsten, thanks for taking the time. This has been really good. I hope you come back to the Branches stage again. You did a great job today, and I hope people follow up with you later because I think you're doing great work through Cloverleaf.
Thank you. I think you are doing amazing work, and thank you so much for including me. I really am honored by it.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks, Dan.